In the 1940s, a guy by the name of Wilbur Clark was popular for being an operator for an anonymous hotel in San Diego, California, along with several bars. Since the age of 19, Clark himself called San Diego his own hometown after being in the town of Keysport, Illinois ever since he was born in 1908. However, that would all change in 1944 when a hotel in a just now sprawling city named Las Vegas called the El Rancho Vegas went up for sale. During this time, not only did he own a hotel and many bars, but he worked on many of the gambling ships that were located in the city back in the day. So because of this, he had a good deal of knowledge about working in the gambling industry. With this knowledge, he had decided to move all the way to the city of Las Vegas to buy the El Rancho Vegas for $1.5 million. This wouldn't be the only casino he would be owning. Just a year later, in 1945, he bought the Monte Carlo Club in Fremont Street, an experience that would only fuel him into creating his very own resort and casino, one that would engrave Las Vegas history with its colorful past of entertainers and gamblers. In 1946, Wilbur Clark would end up selling off the El Rancho Vegas and would begin having plans to build his own hotel and casino. Plans called for it to be built on 16 acres of land, occupying another casino called the Players Club, which Wilbur Clark would also be owning. A proposal for the design of the hotel and casino was also included, planning of having just 70 rooms for its hotel and a small casino with multiple restaurants, bars, kitchens, and even offices. Originally, it would have been called the New Horizon, a name a popular member of the Rat Pack, Frank Sinatra, said to Clark, but it would never come to fruition. Construction of the hotel and casino began in 1946, with a predicted cost of $1,500,000, some of which would be used from the money that Clark invested from the El Rancho Vegas, Monte Carlo Club, and the Players Club. However, during construction, Clark would come into some financial trouble. Funds for the hotel and casino would run out due to high costs of land usage. For a couple months, the construction of the property would be halted, and to better the development of the property, Wilbur Clark would look to none other than Mo Dalitz, a man from Cleveland, Ohio who was previously known for being an illegal liquor bootlegger who also had ties to various gang members back in Cleveland. Dalitz, along with his gang, nicknamed the Cleveland Group, would help out Clark in building the hotel and casino, with the man himself doing the rest of the designing, including some of the iconic signage. On April 24, 1950, the Desert Inn would officially open for business, costing a total of $4.5 million to build. A grand opening ceremony was held at the property that would last for 2 days, featuring a huge advertising campaign by Greenspun, a person who would later be responsible for the creation of the popular Nevada-based newspaper, the Las Vegas Sun. Not only that, but a good amount of media coverage was also spent, costing $5,700. A total of 150 invitations were sent out by Wilbur Clark himself for all kinds of VIP guests, along with 3 radio stations covering the grand opening. The Desert Inn, which was fully named Wilbur Clark's Desert Inn at the time, had a total of 300 hotel rooms, all packed in a 3-story tower. The signage was designed by Wilbur Clark himself, along with the Young Electric Sign Company, which would go on to be some of the most iconic parts of vintage Las Vegas history. The property was meant to have a sort of oasis or desert theme, which is actually a type of theming that some other casinos, including the Tropicana, would compete with the also popular Western theme. Some of the attractions at the Desert Inn when it first opened was the Painted Desert Room, which contained 400 seats and was home to many celebrities including Charlie McCarthy, Edgar Bergen, and the Don Arden Dancers. Not only that, but the Desert Inn would also be home to some members of the Mafia, including Black Bill Tocco and Joe Massel. Because of this, many people from Las Vegas consider the opening of the Desert Inn and its heavy involvement in the Mafia during its early years to be the starting point of when Las Vegas was dominated by the mob crowd. There was also the Sky Room, which was located on the 3rd floor of the property. At one point, this place was actually considered the highest vantage point on the entire Las Vegas Strip, which, during the 1950s, would also become a hotspot for watching atomic bomb testing 65 miles away. The casino area was 2,400 square feet, which made it the largest casino in Nevada at the time, containing 75 slot machines, a race book, and 60 employees throughout the entire property. For guests, there was a huge figure 8-shaped Olympic-sized swimming pool and many private patios amongst the 300 rooms that were available, along with Hollywood suites that came with 2 separate bedrooms and a large living room. There was also multiple shops and restaurants that you were able to enjoy yourself in, like the Celebrity Room Bar and the Lucky Lady Bar. The Desert Inn would become a huge success in the Las Vegas Strip, mainly thanks to its super lavish and luxurious attractions and dining, along with its super comfortable hotel rooms and suites. Even figures like Winston Churchill and John F. Kennedy would be seen inside the casino sometimes. In fact, the Desert Inn would be where Frank Sinatra would make his debut in Las Vegas, being included in the painted Desert showroom. It wouldn't even take long for Clark to expand on the casino after its successful opening. Just 1 year later, on November of 1951, construction started on a golf course that would be developed by the J.W. Anderson Corporation. The golf course would be finished on 1952, sitting on 272 acres and containing 18 holes. The golf course would actually become the Desert Inn's most iconic attraction throughout its entire life, besides Frank Sinatra's presence at the property, and would end up lasting longer than the hotel and casino itself. Tournaments, including the annual Tournament of Champions, would even be held there on multiple occasions. Some locals of Las Vegas even referred to the golf course as Wilbur's Folly. Despite the success of the Desert Inn during its time, some problems would begin to rise. In September of 1953, Wilbur Clark would be charged with 4 counts of tax evasion in Los Angeles, California, that all took place during his time of owning the El Rancho Vegas. A trial would be taking place in mid-1954, and it was proven that Wilbur Clark kept a good amount of money in secret safe deposit boxes all over Nevada. During this time, the Desert Inn would make some design changes. A new, much larger pool would open in 1955 to compete with the one at the New Frontier, which had a heated pool. This wouldn't be the only design change that would happen. The Desert Inn would be building its entire country club to have quote-unquote pyramid towers that included many cabanas and championship tennis courts. In fact, the 1960s would be a game changer for how the Desert Inn would operate. A new tower, named the St. Andrews Tower, would be constructed in 1963, providing 9 floors of hotel rooms, and would be designed by New York architect William Tabler. However, this would not be the game changer for the Desert Inn. The game changer would actually be from an American investor by the name of Howard Hughes. In November of 1966, Howard Hughes entered the Desert Inn and checked into one of their top floor penthouses. For several weeks, he would be constantly staying inside the hotel, keeping all of the top 2 floors to himself, and several times Mo Dalitz would ask him to leave, with a denial from Hughes in reply. Turns out, he was actually looking to buy the Desert Inn for $6.5 million in cash and $7 million in loans. Before this, Wilbur Clark had sadly died from heart failure in 1966, and the ownership went to Mo Dalitz for a short period of time. When Dalitz owned the Desert Inn, the FBI was heavily securing the hotel and casino, due to allegations of Dalitz skimming multiple employees and such. However, Dalitz would immediately accept the deal, and Howard Hughes would become the new owner of the Desert Inn by April 1, 1967. Not only would this become the first hotel that Hughes would own, but it turns out that it would eventually lead to a buying spree for his company, the Summa Corporation. That would include the Frontier, Sands, Castaways, Landmark, the Silver Slipper, and the Herald's Club in Reno, Nevada. For 4 years, Hughes would use his penthouse suite as his own home, never allowing any maids to come clean for him, and would only be seen doing negotiations and business deals with all of the doors and windows shut. In 1970, the Desert Inn Sky Room would close its viewing area, much to the dismay of others, and earlier the painted Desert Room would be renamed to the Crystal Showroom, who would be the home of Debbie Reynolds starting in 1971. Even after Howard Hughes' death in 1976, the Desert Inn would still be owned by the Summa Corporation, and eventually they would begin to completely change the way the Desert Inn looked ever since it first opened in 1950. Before his death, Hughes proposed a massive expansion that would sort of upgrade the resort and casino. Eventually, after his death, the Summa Corporation would go along with the planned expansion and would begin to expand the property to a whopping 165 acres, costing $54 million to build. This would see the almost complete removal of the original desert theme that it had, replaced with a more modern theme and ambience. A new 14-story hotel tower called the Augusta Tower would be built to connect with the St. Andrews Tower. With this, both towers were built and redesigned with an all-glass facade that would take away the room's balconies and would bring up the room count to 825 rooms. The popular neon signs the property had were also removed, replaced with signs that would fit the all-glass aesthetic and would often advertise as country club and golf course. A good amount of the original structuring and theming from the Desert Inn would also be completely removed, with the only thing remaining being its pool, which also had a few additions including carpeting and more foliage. The complete renovation of the property would last for 3 years, giving Summa Corporation a good chance for them to change the name of the property, and thus they did. Quite possibly one of the biggest name changes in Las Vegas history took place, where they decided to rename the Desert Inn to the Stars Desert Inn Hotel and Country Club. Super insane, am I right? Anyways, more and more expansions and additions would be added throughout the 1980s, starting with the opening of the 18,000 square foot spa area in December of 1983. A pretty important event happened for the Desert Inn for its 35th anniversary in 1985. During the ceremony, the property would bury a time capsule that was planned to open on April 24th, 2020. So what was inside of it when it was opened on that exact day? Nothing, because they never dug it up. This would actually be the first out of 3 time capsules that would be buried by the Desert Inn, the second one being buried in honor of Frank Sinatra's 77th birthday, and the third one being buried in April 2000 for its 50th birthday. After a pretty long time, the Summa Corporation's ownership of the Desert Inn would end in 1986 when they sold it to none other than Kurt Kerkorian, the same person who designed both the International, now the Westgate, and the first MGM Grand, which is now Bally's Las Vegas. Kerkorian, still having ownership of many parts of the MGM movie company, had decided to rename the Desert Inn to an even more serious and absolutely crazy name, MGM Desert Inn. During this time, the popularity of the country club and golf course were at its greatest, with its PGA tours being amongst the most popular in all of Nevada. Many championship tournaments were being held there, and this area was amongst the most popular in its own city, beating the likes of the Dunes Golf Course and others.
Teeing it up at the Desert Inn Country Club and Spa in fabulous Las Vegas is more than just playing golf on one of the nation's finest courses. It's experiencing the luxury of a new world-class spa. It's feeling the elegance of impeccably appointed guest rooms. It's tasting the exotic cuisines of faraway places. It's smashing a tennis ball or soaking in the warm Nevada sunshine. It's knowing you've arrived. You've arrived at the Desert Inn.
Another, much larger hotel chain by the name of ITT Sheraton would end up purchasing the Desert Inn from Kerkorian and his company, the Transcendent Corporation, for $160 million. Some new concepts were made in an effort to expand the hotel and casino for a bit, including adding a new theater named the Starlight Theater and relocating and renovating its pool for a more exotic feel, along with expanding its casino area. None of these, however, would compare to the absolute monarchy of a renovation and expansion that would happen for the rest of its lifespan. Starting in 1996, the Desert Inn would come under an effort to rebrand its entire identity, and thus the entire property would undergo both an expansion and renovation that would cost a total of $200 million. First off, the existing Augusta and St. Andrews Tower would be changed to give off a look of a more classy hotel. This was to go along with a new 9-story Palm Tower that would connect to the other existing towers. This would all be designed by multiple architects and designers, including Hurst Bender Interior Design Associated and Paul Steelman. A new lobby, known as the Grand Lobby Atrium, would be built, along with a new lagoon-style pool and gardens and the demolition of a few hotel rooms, causing the room count to go down to 750 to make sure guests were able to be provided with luxurious accommodations. The renovation would be fully complete on December 19, 1997, with big raving reviews. Many guests praised its super luxurious ambience and feel, along with its great accommodations and its amazing country club. The property was even able to receive a 4-diamond rating by the AAA, and its golf course was voted as one of the top 100 golf resorts by World by the Golfer. To top it all off, just 1 year later, ITT Sheraton would be bought out by Starwood Hotels and Resorts Worldwide, which would also mean that the company would be owning the Desert Inn. However, while their recent renovations were quite amazing and made the resort and casino much more enjoyable, this would end up being the last renovation it ever had. You see, the Desert Inn would end up being dwarfed by the likes of the nearby Venetian, which would open 1 year later in 1999. But even then, the other resorts on the Las Vegas Strip had much more attractions than just a simple golf course. This would end up making the Desert Inn a pretty unpopular joint, especially by the end of the 1990s. This would cause the Desert Inn to start losing an incredible amount of money. Not even a year into its ownership, Starwood Hotels would auction off the Desert Inn, and eventually on April 28, 2000, a certain individual would end up buying the Desert Inn for $270 million, and that individual was none other than Steve Wynn. His decision on what to do with the resort and casino was to simply close it forever. On June 22, 2000, Steve Wynn announced that the Desert Inn would be permanently closing on September 30, to later be replaced with a new mega resort. His reason was mainly due to how unprofitable the property had been. As he stated during the closing, it is not a place where we can invite guests to the Mirage and Bellagio. We can't deliver a product. I don't feel the DI is viable. The non-casino staff spawns the energy. I can't protect the employees from the lamination of mistakes that have been made since 35 years ago when Modalit sold this place. It seems that every time one of the owners stepped up to fix it, they lost their focus, did everything but the right thing. Nothing at the Desert Inn has been the way it should be. When we came, it was Judgment Day. We wanted so much to keep the old hotel open as a training center until the new hotel was finished, but it's going to lose $30,000 to $40,000 a day. The Desert Inn would permanently close on August 28, 2000 at 2 a.m. After more than 50 years, the fifth resort and casino to ever open on the Las Vegas Strip was done for. There was only one time when the Desert Inn would be seen again, this time in the form of the Red Dragon Casino in Rush Hour 2, in which the entire building was painted red and was given a Chinese theme. But other than that, demolition would begin on the casino area, and plans on implosions were being made while the rest of the property would be used as an art gallery for Steve Wynn. Eventually, on Tuesday, October 23, 2001, the Augusta Tower was imploded, and it wouldn't take long for the once iconic resort and casino to be fully demolished, along with a few more implosions on the other hotel towers on November 16, 2004. The golf course, however, would still be in operation even to this day. This would officially mark a completed history of one of the most iconic hotels and casinos in Las Vegas. And finally, on April 28, 2005, the mega resort Wynn was talking about would finally open on the footprint of what was the Desert Inn. And that mega resort happened to be the Wynn Las Vegas. Now, you can either like or dislike how Steve Wynn replaced the Desert Inn with the Wynn, but even with all that, it's safe to say that the Desert Inn had such a huge impact on Las Vegas history, with its past with Howard Hughes, Wilbur Clark, the corporations, and even the mob. The Desert Inn, however, will still remain as a hidden gem of Las Vegas' true past.